It's the Center Fantasy Football Podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal!
Yes! Yes! Yes, this is my favorite part of the game.
Analyzing all of the league matchups week to week.
You can't win!
Get him a body bag! Finish him!
It is a bit above average.
I said this sucks, and basically so do you.
And discussing the boom, bust, and hidden gem players throughout the league.
We ain't found shit!
What the hell is Brett Favre doing here?
I'm in town to play the Dolphins, you dumbass.
Dan Marino should die of gonorrhea and rot in hell. Laces out.
Touchdown!
And here's your host,
Allow myself to introduce myself.
David Harbacken. Hello and welcome to the Center Fantasy Football Podcast for Week 10 of Season 6. I am your host, David Harbacken, joined by the bipolar coach of the Hackettstown Hagglers, basically sitting there like Bob Uecker during Major League. Mr. Gazeletsky, how you doing?
You know what it sounds.
This should be an interesting one. So, what games do you want to start on for last week?
Well, let's get the game that wasn't a game over with.
There's a lot of them that qualified for. But I guess we could. You're referring to Fitzmagic defeating the Hackettstown Hacklers by a score of 141.40 to 105.12. Is that the one to which you're referring?
Yeah, we could start there.
Well, this game, I mean, really, it looks almost even until you get to the defense. Really, the Chicago defense with 28 points. Made a huge difference. I mean, Watson and Wilson both got 24.32 for Watson, 24.50 for Wilson, 26.5 for Hopkins, which was more than Thielen. Surprising. We only got 12. 10.7 for Sanders, but that was, still more than bunches of funchies. 6.3 for Adrian Peterson, still more than Cohen, who had 2.3. Richard had 8.9, which happened to be more than Peyton Barber. Burton had 10.8, but Kelsey came up with 28.9, 12.5 for Woods, 16.7 for Howard, 5 for Crosby, 11 for Lutz, 3 for the Seattle defense, and then 28, as I had mentioned earlier, for the Chicago defense, which was really the difference here. I mean, and he had sat Duke Johnson Jr. with 29.60 points on the bench. So, yeah. I don't know what to say.
Well, I think you said enough. Let's go on to the next game.
Are you trying to appease the ones who want the episodes to be short? Is that what we're doing here?
Our one viewer? Yeah, I think the podcasts have been too long, so let's move along.
Okay. I mean, this is the interesting thing is this is 2 weeks in a row that you face somebody who's had the defense that played Buffalo, and both weeks that defense was the deciding factor in the game. No comments on this, Coach?
I think we've been down this road before, Richard.
All right, we're not going to get anything out of him for this. So then why don't you pick the next game? Maybe a game that you'll talk about.
Oh, I've been talking. Let's talk about... Well, after I do my game, what makes me feel better is to do the Dr. Hockey matchup usually. So let's go to the Dr. Hockey.
Okay, well, this was the battle for the dumpster. Dr. Hockey could have pulled his cousin, the Lightning Rods, back down into the dumpster with him, and they would have been tied, both with a win each, but that was not to be. The Lightning Rods loses his chance to set a new record for most losses in a season. He can still tie it. But Dr. Hockey firmly has that in his grasp as May God Win Great Again loses by a score of 125.46 to 97.94, bringing him to a whooping 0-9. So, I don't know. Why don't you go through this game?
Well, let's see. Dr. Hockey just shy of 100 points.
That is true.
Breeze putting up a 39 spot. Woo!
Yes.
Let's just sift through the garbage right now. Like you always say, Adams was a decent game, and then
he went with Cole Beasley, who only had 4.6 points.
Yeah, then the rest of it just gets ugly.
Once again, the Lightning Rods benched Tevin Coleman this week with 32.60 points.
Right. Just a statement that he didn't even need it against Dr. Hockey.
Yeah, I mean, being that his combined running back totals, Kerryon Johnson got 7.4, Lamar Miller with 6.8. I mean, Coleman blew that out of the water. Negative 1 points for the Los Angeles defense, but 3 for the Pittsburgh defense for Dr. Hockey. 10 for Tucker. Brandon Cooks with 23.40 points, and then O.J. Howard with 21.30 points. I mean, that's gigantic. 25.1 for Julio Jones, a pedestrian 17.66 for Tom Brady, Smith-Schuster with 14.8. I mean, for hockey, yeah, Breeze is pretty much the highlight. I mean, Devontae Adams continues to produce 16 points for him. I mean, he played Cole Beasley, like I said, only 4.6 points. I mean, hockey's running backs outplayed him. 10.4 for Lindsey, 11.20 for Henry. Vance McDonald only had 5.5. Shocker there. Devontae Parker had 1.8 points. 6 for Gano. So, yeah. I mean, hockey continues to be pretty bad. I mean, he doesn't even have anybody on the bench, really. 7.5 for Gabriel, 7 for Nua. Yeah, so this game was not even close. Firmly establishing himself as the worst team in the league by far. now with a 2-game cushion on that.
2-game cushion for the basement. I like it.
Yeah, and points on top of that. So, like, he's gonna, it would have to be a monumental collapse for the for the Lightning Rods to let hockey catch him at this point. I mean, that was really his opportunity.
Right. Well, we capitalized on our bid to get to the dumpster, though. We're only a game ahead of the Lightning Rod.
That's true. You're still 3 ahead of Dr. Hockey, though. You have won this season.
Yeah.
Hockey is not. Hockey is not won since What do we do? I mean, I think it was October of last year. I mean, it's over a year since he's had a win.
Like I said, I love doing hockey games after we do my game because it feels so good.
I mean, it might have been November. I mean, he's at least approaching a year. He might. I don't recall the exact time when he won his last game. We'll look that up for the next week's episode to see. We'll do the countdown to how long it's been since hockey has won a game and how long he can go. But yes.
Could it be 2 calendar years?
I don't know. Let's see what his draft looks like next year. I mean, because he traditionally doesn't win in September and October anyway. I mean, it usually takes him at least until late October. But this time he far surpassed that. We're already into November. Daylight savings time is over. I mean, he doesn't win in daylight savings time. He can only win in standard time. And even that, I mean, he's not even good on that lately.
I mean, there are teams that take, September and October off. Hockey's one of them.
Yes. I mean, because those are times that hockey is not traditionally played. I mean, it doesn't even, this season doesn't even start until October. So, same thing for Dr. Hockey. He does all of his playing in April when the season is over. Anything else you have to say about these 2 train wrecks?
These 2, no. I'm just glad that they are in the league.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Well, all right. What other games would you like to go over with a fine-tooth comb?
Well, let's just keep going down the list of teams that scored under 100. So let's go over to Team auto draft was a surprise. Did he not play somebody? What happened there? 79 points.
No, he did. So this was the game where he played against Fitzmagic. So basically his two wide receivers played against Whalers' quarterback, except Whalers must have instructed his quarterback, don't throw to them. Because Mike Evans with 2.6 points, 5.2 for Deshaun Jackson, whereas Fitzpatrick still had 34.02 points, opting to go to O.J. Howard for most of the points there. So, wow, this is bad. 7 for Crowell, 6.9 for Frank Gore, 9.3 for Njoku, 5.2 for Lockett, 9 for Myers, 5 for Denver. Other than Roethlisberger, who got 29.20 points, no player got into double digits.
Wow.
On his bench, Amari Cooper, actually 16.8 points and 12.6 for Marvin Jones. Saquon was on a bye, so that, I guess, hurts him. But, yeah, I mean, to not even crack double digits. I mean, the closest was the kick. Well, Njoku had 9.3, but the kicker got up to 9. Woo! Yeah. Other than Roethlisberger, I mean, I'm actually curious to do the totals on this. This is like 2 plus 5, so it's 7, 14, 20, 29, 34, 43, about 48. Not even, he didn't crack 50 with the rest of his lineup. Meanwhile, the Whalers, 34.02 for Fitzpatrick, 12.5 for Hill, only 8.4 for Galladay. Kamara with a monster 33.60 points in that Rams game, 16 for Chubb, 0 for Dixon. Valdez, Scantlin, and Associates got 13.1, 7 points for Butker, and 22 for the Minnesota defense. Looks like he's been reading some Defensive Digest lately with his 22 points there. Because other than that, actually not. I mean, Kamara had a good game and Fitzpatrick had a good game, but not that great a game for the rest of the players there. But when you read Defensive Digest, I mean, you don't really need that great rest of the players.
Yeah, most players, once they read Defensive Digest, they win.
It seems to be the case. And especially when the other team doesn't even read Offensive Digest. Like Dylan. 79. That's bad. I mean, I don't know what to say there. Maybe start playing we just make him nuts. Maybe play Cooper now. I don't know. I mean, I don't even. What do you do about Cooper from the? I mean, he had a good game, but like Mark Ingram had a great first game, and then they just kind of went away from him. So, do you play Cooper now that he's no longer on the Raiders? I mean, because the Raiders are terrible.
Think, new team, same result. I think he made a smart move. Cooper wasn't going to make a difference anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a good idea to just either keep him on the bench or just, you can trade him. I mean, there's only one day left to trade after this, so.
Oh yeah, that's true. The trading deadline is tomorrow night, so get your shaftings out of the way.
Yeah, Eugene offered me another ridiculous trade. Sammy Watkins, all right, for Trey Burton and Robert Woods. Again, what's your initial reaction to that? You're laughing, right?
Well, I was laughing. I was laughing at the Sammy Watkins part, let alone wanting Robert Woods out of that deal. Like, are you? And then just throw in Trey Burton for extra.
For extra, right?
Yeah, no. Yeah, I mean that's sad that the ridiculous shafting part of the season is finally over. No more trades after. When is the actual trade deadline? I think it's
10th. So.
The 10th. So at midnight at like 11:59. So.
Yeah, I mean he did throw in Ben Watson. I think that's because the computer made him because of the roster spot, but it's still a ridiculous. Not.
Yeah, well, Oh, Eugene. I mean, he's actually he's been performing. I mean, we can get into his game because it was actually an exciting good game. But yeah, no, just totally ridiculous. Whalers, though, look, he's been a different team since his train with Minor, adding Hill and Ertz. I mean, Ertz didn't even play this week, but he didn't need him because his opponent decided to not show up. But generally, Ertz has been great. So Whalers has been really on a roll since his trade. Eugene had some scares after his trade with Nick, but he's still doing well, surprisingly, despite that. But I guess everybody be on the lookout for ridiculous trades coming your way with only a day or so left. It's the 10th. Today is this is going to be on the 8th, so Saturday night, basically. Eugene's Saturday Night Massacre. All right. Well, where would you, unless you have anything else to say about that game?
No, like you said, he has to read Offensive Digest before he can read Defensive Digest, I guess.
Exactly. Speaking about a team that finally read some Defensive Digest, we'll go with my game. I actually did read Defensive Digest this week, which saved my bacon because I just criticized Whalers' team for not having a very good offensive output. My team did not either. This was kind of atrocious. Other than a few positions. So the 1603ers win 141.40 to 102.02 against the St. Louis Blues. And that actual 102.02 was pretty good, considering. I mean, he got 22 from Dion Lewis and 12 from Davis. I mean, that was what? 34.2 points from some pretty bad players, but I mean, there's only so much of a Monday Night Miracle you can have when you start out at 69 points before that game and you're playing two Tennessee players. But yeah, I mean, 37 for Matt Ryan, which was more than the 21.12 from Phillip Rivers. DJ Moore, is that who's? Yeah, I don't even know. He's cut already. 5.8 points. Still more than Grant on Miami, who only got 2.6. Crabtree with 6.2, which was less than Davis. 29.3 for James Conner. Outplayed Dion Lewis with 22.20 points. 19.3 for Gordon. Outplayed Alex Collins. 10.2 for Herndon going against the former 1603er Kyle Rudolph, who was picked up by the Blues to play against him. He only ended up with 4.8 points, though. Initially, I guess he fell on a fumble in the end zone, and it looked like they were going to give him credit for those points, but he didn't. I don't know how that works out point-wise. Only 2.6 from Mark Ingram. He's been pretty awful since that first game back, while the Blues got 13.4 from Ito Smith, 6 points from Dan Bailey, the kicker, and 10 for Robbie Gould for the Blues. And then here's the real difference, 5 points for the Kansas City defense and 25 from the Miami defense, a recommendation of Defensive Digest, which really made the difference. I mean, it didn't totally make the difference in this game, but, it would have been much more of a squeaker had that not been the case. We did leave Ridley on the bench with 19.70 points, so there is that. But, yeah, Defensive Digest really saves the day.
Yeah, you see teams that read Defensive Digest, they win.
Yeah, I don't know what to say about the Blues here. I mean, they did have Stephon Diggs. He was questionable. Well, I mean, he was out. I don't even know why, but whatever. And Chris Thompson was out. Ebron was on a bye. David Johnson was on a bye. AJ Green is out. I mean, this was a bad week for the Blues. He didn't really have anybody, so he had to pick up some garbage players. But you know what? He did pick up some pretty good garbage players in Dion Lewis and Corey Davis. So credit to him to get himself over that 100-point hump. But yeah, still not enough. Anything else on this game?
Nope. Let's roll along.
Yeah, well, one interesting fact is about this game. So the 1603ers got 141.40 points, which is the exact amount that Fitzmagic or the Millennials got this week. So had they and we're playing each other this upcoming week. So had we played each other last week, we would have seen our first ever tie, which would have been interesting. I don't even know how that would factor into the standings, but it would be interesting. But we didn't play him this week, so it doesn't even matter. That leads us 2 games left. One actually exciting one that was a blowout, but the difference, but it was an upset. So which one do you want to go? You want to go with the upset or the exciting game?
Let's go with the upset.
All right, well, the upset. We both actually called this upset, though. This was, I think, our picks for upset of the week last week, right?
Are we talking about
Eugene beating Nick and Jamie 163.30?
The appetite company? Yep, there we go.
Yep. I mean, we did see this coming. This is not that surprising. But yeah, impressive performance by Eugene. 163.30 defeats the first place Nick and Jamie 139.26. Really, you know, the greatest of all time came through on this one, 33.80 points. So early in the game, McCaffrey was playing for Eugene, and Kareem Hunt was playing for Nick and Jamie, and they were about even. McCaffrey finished with 32.7, Kareem Hunt with 33.10. And Mahomes was playing and Newton was playing, and that was really the difference right there. 33.8 for Mahomes and only 25.18 for Newton. So that set it, the day off to a bad start for Nick and Jamie. And then it just continued to get to worse. Michael Thomas got 39.10 points. Tyrell Williams got 10.3 for Eugene, 15.2 for Elliott. But at that point, it was already irrelevant. The game was over. 15.2 for Watson. That's why he's trying to sell him now. Sell him high, even though he got 0 points last week. 4 points for Chris Carson, 8 for Fairbairn, and 5 for Houston. So Eugene wins without even reading Defensive Digest. Impressive. For Nick and Jamie, who normally does read Defensive Digest. In fact, they've been one of the earliest subscribers to it. Getting a massive amount of points from their defense normally. Only got 1 point from Washington. Did they forget to go do that this week? What's going on there?
Maybe all the good teams were taken.
Maybe because everybody else started reading it. Because, had they gotten a nice, sweet 28 points from their defense or something, they could have won this game. But no, that did not happen. So, as I mentioned, 25.18 for Newton, 17.38 for Edelman in a calm game for him, 8.7 for Sutton, the new wide receiver. Well, I mean, he was an old wide receiver at Denver, but now that Demaryius Thomas is gone, he's the guy. Emmanuel Sanders is the guy, but Sutton is at least a guy now. James White with his 28.30 points. James White has been really good this year. He's just a points machine. The New England team, this was another problem. Gronkowski was out in the game, and this D. Allen guy, Dwayne Allen, has not really been that much of an improvement in his stead. 3.10 points for him. Jimmy Graham got 15.5, 7 for Gostkowski, and 1 for Washington. So yeah, this is what happens when the Patriots don't play Gronk and don't play that spectacularly points wise. I mean, they still won the game, but yeah, it makes a difference.
Huge difference. Yep.
And also when they don't have when they haven't read Defensive Digest, that makes a huge difference too.
Defensive Digest is it seems to be the key to the championship this season.
It does. Defensive fantasy football. You joked about it last year, but this is actual defensive fantasy football. So good win for Eugene. It basically moves him even in record with Nick and Jamie and the 1603ers. So now there's a legitimate three-way race for first, second, and third. He does have, what does he have? He has about 90 less points than the 1603ers and over 100 less than Nick and Jamie. So he's going to still have to get a win that the other two don't. but he's certainly in the conversation. It's a good win for him, and it's a tough loss for Nick and Jamie. I mean, they could have kept, if they could have kept rolling, I mean, nobody could have caught them. I mean, in points wise, they still do have the most points in the league, and they do have the most points. Well, obviously, out of any of those three teams. Their lead over the 1603ers is about 21, so that's catchable. But yeah, they're still in first place. They still, but they lost that little buffer zone that they had there. And New England has not gone on their bye yet, so there's some potential for. I mean, they go in their bye in week 11. So next week they go on the bye. Whoever gets that matchup, I think we looked at this and it was like Dr. Hockey, right? Is that who they have next week? No, the Lightning Rod, same shit. Of course they luck out with that. But whatever. That should be a tough week if the Lightning Rods decides to play them that week. I don't know. We'll see. All right, well, that leaves us with the last game, the most exciting game of the week. This did not require any Monday Night Miracles. There was no Monday Night Miracles at all this week. I guess that's what happens when Tennessee plays Dallas and nobody cares. So Nikki Baby falls to Black Ice Dynasty, 138.54 for Black Ice Dynasty and 131.66 for Nikki Baby. The interesting thing about this game was going into the Sunday night game, Nick had a 23-point lead about that. And then Josh Gordon went out to play and got 24 points. So it put Minor up by a point. All that was left was the defense. It looked like he wasn't even going to play a defense, which would have actually been a really smart move. Because, the defense could have cost him points. Luckily, it didn't. He decided to play. I mean, because he had the Dallas defense in there anyway. Once he had the 1-point lead, he actually took him out of the lineup. And then I guess right before game time, he put him back in, which is ballsy. I don't know if I would have just took a knee at that point if I would have had that win. But he gets the extra 6 points, so good for him. He ends up winning by 7. But I don't know if I would. Would you have taken that risk?
Maybe. That's a good question. I'm not sure what I would have done at that point. That was a ballsy move.
Yeah. I mean, I guess if you're in a battle for points, it makes a difference, and he kind of is, but there's a tremendous downside there that could happen. I mean, once you're, if you have a more than 3-point lead, the most you could lose at a defense is 3 points. And then you just need a sack. But I mean, could you imagine if he ended up losing that game by a point because he put in the defense? I mean, because I got like -1.
Yeah, that would be something.
But yeah, so Aaron Rodgers gets 23.16 points for Nikki Baby, 36.34 for Goff. In that game where the Rams came back and then ended up losing. 19.9 for Cooper Kupp, so he was throwing a lot of those points to Cooper Kupp. 11 points for Landry. For Minor, Keenan Allen had 21.20 points given to Nick in that trade. But then, Josh Gordon outplayed him with 24 points. Only 19.90 points for Todd Gurley. I mean, there's a real difference for Nikki Baby. I mean, Gurley had a Gurley-like game, this could have been very different, but a pedestrian 19.9 points. 7.5 for Kenyon Drake for Minor. Latavius Murray only had 11.7 as Dalvin Cook came back and played a little bit. So that cut into his numbers, and we'll see what that does in the future. 7.9 for Doug Martin for Minor. 20.8 points for Kittle and 19.6 for Olsen. So a battle of tight ends in this game. Just barely won by Nick, but Kittle remains a great tight end in this game. Although this was, that new guy Mullins was in there, and he just kept throwing to Kittle. And I think Kittle got his bell rung, and then he ended up coming back. Whatever, that game was pathetic anyway. But yes, I do remember watching that. But his other tight end, Jared Cook, only got 4 points, whereas Antonio Brown, who's playing in the flex, interestingly enough, got 15.20 points. 6 for McManus, 11 for Zerline for Black Ice Dynasty, and as we mentioned, 6 points for the Dallas defense, 5 for the Carolina defense. Nothing really on the bench for Nick. I mean, this is just a tough loss for him. But what are you gonna do?
Yeah, what are you gonna do? So a couple of 4-4 versus 4-4. Winner's looking good. Loser got a little bit of an uphill climb, but both are in great position to do something. They're in the middle of the pack.
I mean, they are, but I mean, there's first of all, there's a lot of 4 and 5 teams. I mean, the Hagglers are 3 and 6, so one more win for them, and they've caught up to all of those teams. I mean, the Lightning Rods isn't going to catch anybody. A lot would have to. Dr. Hockey is definitely not catching anything. I don't even. What is there? 5 games left or something? 4 games left. There's 4 games left, right? So Dr. Hockey literally can't catch any of those teams, or can't catch Minor anymore. I think, Hockey is. We've been asking, when is he officially eliminated from the playoffs? I think he's officially eliminated from the playoffs at this point.
Is he already? Wow.
Well, no, technically he's not, because he could tie Minor or the Millennials in a record. He would need a massive points output, so he's not There is a chance if he won out with massive points totals, because by the way, he only has 922 points. Everybody else is well over 1,000. He's still under 1,000 for the season, which is also quite impressive in its horridness. But yeah, so he's not officially eliminated. This is probably the week where he gets the old heave-ho and the actual mathematical elimination. But yeah, no, it's a tough loss for Nicky Baby. I mean, because that one win makes a big difference. First of all, it puts him in the sixth spot. I actually think, this is one of those interesting seasons where I think a team with a losing record might get in there. Maybe, I wonder if multiple will get in. I don't know, but there's a chance. I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see. I mean, there's still a lot of fantasy football left to be played.
Yeah, there's about. So what? There's 4 weeks now. 5 weeks.
Yep.
4?
I think it's 4. Yeah, there's 4 weeks left.
Oh wait, then I'm sorry. Then yeah, Audwin has been mathematically eliminated. There's no chance he cannot get 5 wins. He has been eliminated. Dr. Hockey, your season is done. You are the weakest link. Goodbye. The Lightning Rods could still make. He has not been mathematically, but Dr. Hockey, congratulations! 9 weeks in, and you have been eliminated. Way to go!
Well played, Aud. I mean, that's a feat. Your teams have reached that benchmark.
Yep. Yeah, you have actually been we have our first mathematically eliminated team.
Dr. Hockey meant business this season. He wanted out immediately.
He meant business, like a failing business. A bankrupt, fire-sold business. Yeah. All right, well, but everybody else still has a chance at the playoffs. But Dr. Hockey...
So now, that rule in place so nobody can pick up anybody hockey draw? Literally?
Well, the rule is in place for the playoffs. The rule is in place for the playoffs. I think for this situation, in case, because otherwise, yeah, I guess everybody would be.
Somebody doing this poorly. Are his teams off limits, like his players?
No, it's only for the playoffs because what?
Should we have to analyze the rule that was passed this season?
I don't know. We could look. I'm pretty sure that the rule that we passed said playoffs only. I think that was a change in the rule because somebody argued like what? I mean, I don't think they argued for this situation. I didn't even picture this kind of ridiculousness where, I mean, because there's still bye weeks. I mean, actually, we can analyze it because I picked up his kicker. I wouldn't be allowed to have him if that's what the rule.
Are you even allowed to do that?
I mean, his kicker was on a bye. I mean, but he did technically drop his kicker before he got mathematically eliminated. So I'm allowed to have his kicker.
We have to look at the drop time? I don't know.
You
Who
could
did
look.
I pick up? I start being careful.
I'm telling you, the rule was passed for the playoffs. You could still pick up hockey players.
Okay.
It was definitely playoffs. I mean, hockey's barely. I mean, he still has to. I mean, there's still bye weeks. He still has to pick up. I mean, he still has to drop players. What does he just get free reign to get? I mean, soon enough. I mean, the Lightning Rods is soon enough going to be able to pick up his players anyway in the consolation playoffs because he won't be in contention.
Okay.
Because I think that was the rule said that teams that were still in contention could not pick up players dropped from teams that were not in contention once the playoffs start.
Once the playoffs starts, okay.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, hopefully hockey doesn't go on a ridiculous fire sale right now, dropping left and right. But yeah, he has nothing left to play for, other than $5.
Well, anybody he could drop that would, except for Devontae Adams.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, his team is pretty god awful. I mean, there's nobody that you'd really want on there anyway, which really happens when you go 0-9 out the gate. It's not like people are clamoring for those players like the Dr. Hockey has, like the scintillating Inua or whatever, or Vance McDonald. I mean, I know that there's going to be a rush on Vance McDonald. My God. Yeah, but congratulations to hockey. That is quite a feat to be eliminated this early.
You are an aggressive schedule.
Yes. All right. Well, that moves us on to next week's games. Which, I mean, where would you like to start there? Would you like to start with Dr. Hockey's game?
Well, let's get my matchup out of the way first, and then we'll go to Dr. Hockey.
Well, actually, I think we should really get Dr. Hockey's game out of the way because he's playing Nick and Jamie for their bounce back game.
Oh my! This would be the upset of all upsets.
Oh yeah, this would be the upset of all time. It's not going to happen. First of all, Nick and Jamie are already an 87% favorite. Yeah, I think Nick and Jamie bounce back from their loss last week. So the projection for Nick and Jamie is 148.09 to 91.44 for hockey. Granted, Lindsay is on a bye, but don't worry, he'll put in... I don't know, is Fournette actually back? He has like some points, whatever, like sitting there. He's back to full practice. Maybe Fournette, now that the season's over, his savior will come back to get him $20.
Right, now that both of our seasons are over, Fournette and Dalvin Cook will dominate.
Exactly. All right, well, I mean, we could go into the numbers this one, but Cam Newton at Pittsburgh tomorrow night, Drew Brees at Cincinnati. I'll give the edge to Brees. Why not? Edelman at Tennessee. Devontae Adams versus Miami. I'm going to give the edge to Devontae Adams. And that's about all that I'm going to give. T.Y. Hilton playing against Cole Beasley. Obviously, Hilton I favor there. Hunt and White versus Derrick Henry and maybe Fournette? I don't know. Let's just say Fournette. I'm still going to give the edge to Nick and Jamie there. Gronk versus Vance McDonald. The whooping Vance McDonald. Now, there have been some weeks where Vance McDonald has outplayed Gronkowski. I don't think this is going to be one of them. Sony Michel at Tennessee against Devontae Parker at Green Bay. Gostkowski versus Gano. And the New England defense versus the Pittsburgh defense. Yeah. This is Nick and Jamie's bye week. The New England bye week is next week, but Nick and Jamie's bye week is this week. I'm just going to go out on a limb and say that they bounce back and win this game. Do you concur?
I'm going to have to say that I agree with that. 100%.
Yeah. All right. I think that's all the analysis we need there. Well, now you want to move to your game? All right. The Hagglers versus the Whalers. This is actually would be so okay. This could be a very interesting matchup. The problem that we are facing right now is that all of the Hagglers have decided to go on a bye this week. Well, they haven't decided. Their schedule has them on a bye. Hopkins. Just listen to the players that are on a bye for you. Hopkins, Watson, Sanders, Cook, Brown. Jay Adams is not on a bye. I don't know who he is, but I guess on the Eagles, whatever. But everybody else is... All of those players are on a bye. I guess you've put in the only players that you even have playing, so that would be Baker Mayfield at quarterback versus Atlanta, going against Fitzmagic versus Washington. Maybe Fitzmagic will do what he did to Tillett and, not throw to your guy at all. But theoretically, if Fitzmagic decides to throw some touchdowns, maybe it'll go Godwin's way. Going against Tyreek Hill versus Arizona, I'm going to give the edge there. Galladay against Robert Woods. This is one of the matchups that I think Robert Woods will actually do better than Galladay. He's been kind of lately. Kamara against Peterson. Kamara will outplay Peterson. Mixon against Barber. Mixon will outplay Barber. Ertz against Burton. Ertz will outplay Burton. Chubb against Mike Davis. I mean, Chubb has not been bad since the trade of what's his name to Jacksonville. What's going on with the workhorse there? Mike Davis.
The horse's ass.
17 points. I don't know. Then Butker versus Crosby. And Philadelphia defense versus Seattle. I think the Whalers, first of all, he's projected to get 145. You're projected to get 96.43. And that is not a misprint. That is with all of your players in there. I'm going to have to go with favoring the Whalers. Sorry about that one in this one.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Whalers in this one, too, actually. I'm going to change my trend.
I mean, upsets can happen, but this would be a huge upset. I don't see it happening, really. We can get this one out of the way for you. All right. Who's next? Who next?
Next. All right, we got that. How about the 1603ers versus Fitzmagic here, the office mates?
Yeah, this is actually a pretty decent matchup. So you have Matt Ryan at Cleveland going against Russell Wilson versus the Rams. I think Ryan has the edge there. Tyler Boyd versus New Orleans against Bunches of Fun Cheese tomorrow night at Pittsburgh. I'm going to give the edge to Boyd. Calvin Ridley at Cleveland going against Odell Beckham at San Francisco. Beckham gets the edge there. Then Connor and Gordon. Connor's playing Carolina. Gordon at Oakland. Ooh. Gordon is playing Oakland. Wow. Going against Richard. Oh, so Gordon will be playing against Richard. Connor against Cohen. I'm going to give the running back edge to the 1603ers. Herndon versus Buffalo against Kelsey. Obviously, Kelsey's playing Arizona. I'm going to give the edge to Kelsey. Right now, and I don't know, but Ingram is playing at Cincinnati. I have him in there going against Duke Johnson, who had the whooping 29 points. Why do you have 29 points last? 8 rushing yards, 9 targets, 9 receptions, 78 receiving yards, and 2 receiving touchdowns. That's why Duke Johnson was so good last week. I don't know. Maybe Duke Johnson outplays Mark Ingram at this point. I have some buys. I also have some options on the bench. I don't know what I'm going to do. So I don't know if he's necessarily going to play, but we'll see. But I'll give the edge there. Then the 1603ers picked up Rosas going against San Francisco. Yeah, at San Francisco on Monday night, going against Lutz, who's actually been a pretty good kicker lately at Cincinnati. And then the Chicago defense, which has been his defensive staple all week. Defensive Digest, by the way, picked them as the number 1 defense this week. But number 3 on the list, number 2 was the Jets. I forgot who picked them up, but we'll find out. But number 3 on the list was Buffalo. So both defenses in that game were picked by Defensive Digest. So, because they're horrid. And the Jets are absolutely horrid. As is Buffalo. So, but the Buffalo defense was not atrocious. It's their offense. I mean, that's gonna be a train wreck of a game. But I'm just gonna say it's it evens out. I think the difference. Well, I mean, obviously, I always pick my opponent, and I'm going to pick my opponent in this game. But if you're going to look for a difference in the game, I think maybe running backs, and I don't know, running backs is really I think where the difference is. Well, but I mean, he can make up points at tight end and at the flex. I think. I don't know. This is going to be a close game.
I'm going to pick the 16-03 in this one.
Okay.
In a blowout.
Really interesting. I don't think so. I don't think it's gonna be a blowout, but we'll see. Especially if he gets the kind of point to. I mean, granted, Chicago's not playing Buffalo again, but I don't know. We'll see. All right. What's next on your agenda?
All right, we almost done with this horrid train wreck. All right, let's go to the Black Guys Dynasty versus the Blues.
Speaking of train wrecks, okay, so Black Ice Dynasty is favored 129.37 to 73.55. He doesn't even have a second wide receiver in there. I don't even know what does he even. I guess he's going to go with Marquise Goodwin, or is he going to go with Des Bryant? Did he sign? He signed. All right, so Des Bryant will probably be the wide receiver. I don't even know. But I mean, to accompany Corey Davis, who I don't think is going to get that kind of points that he did last week against New England. All right, so first of all, we have Goff versus Seattle against Phillip Rivers at Oakland. I think Phillip Rivers has a great matchup there. He'll do fine. Jordan Landry versus Atlanta. I mean, Landry's been fine. He'll get double digits. Corey Davis, I really don't. I mean, he's been up and down and mostly down. He was up last week, but I don't think that's going to be the same. Josh Gordon, I mean, New England just 1 week when you have a New England player, he'll look great, and then the next he won't. I think this is one of those weeks where he's not going to look great. Right now, I think he'll be better than empty, but still. Kenyon Drake against Deion Lewis. I don't think Deion Lewis is going to do that well, but I don't think Kenyon Drake is going to do that well. Doug Martin against Alex Collins doesn't even have a game. But David Johnson will be back there against Kansas City, so David Johnson. All right. Olsen against Ebron. That's actually a good tight end matchup. Antonio Brown versus Ito Smith. Zerline versus Gould. And Los Angeles Chargers defense against the Kansas City defense going against Arizona. I mean, the smart money just says minor, but you know what? I think the Blues can maybe pull out. I think. Well, I mean, look, the Blues is suffering from a lot in this game. Diggs is on a bye this week. Thompson is still questionable. I mean, he might go against Tampa Bay. That'll help. AJ Green is out. I mean, the Blues have some problems. They can win this game. I don't think that this minor lineup looks all that scintillating, but I don't know. I mean, naturally you go with minor based on the composition of this, but there's a possibility that the Blues can pull this one out, especially if Rivers has a good game and some other players do too. I don't know. What do you think?
This is an interesting matchup here. Another close one where the winner's in great shape and the loser's, especially if Lombardi loses this one. This is more important for Lombardi. I'm going to go with minor on this one.
Yeah. I mean, it'll make things more interesting in the standings, certainly, if the Blues wins this and knocks them both down to 5-5. But, yeah, I don't know. I mean, Minor will be in a decent position if he could win this game. If he loses this, he's back in the muck, and we'll see. I mean, if Minor loses this game, if the Blues can somehow pull out a victory here, which I don't think is that likely, but if they do, it really creates a very interesting scenario going into the last 3 weeks for those last two playoff spots. Yep. All right. What else is left? Let's go with Team Auto Draft versus the Lightning Rod. Speaking of teams that are... Team Auto Draft still 4-5. Wow. If they could lose here. Whew. Let's see. What is Lightning Rod's going for? All right. Roethlisberger plays tomorrow. Well, so first of all, the projection is 122.07 to 115.81 in favor of the Lightning Rods. Wow. Tom Brady playing at Tennessee. Here's the thing. I actually don't think teams do that well against Tennessee because they just milk the clock away. Especially when they're playing a team that they think is good. I don't think Tom Brady is going to have that great a game. Roethlisberger playing versus Carolina, that might actually be some points for Roethlisberger. Julio Jones at Cleveland and Smith-Schuster versus Carolina. So anything Roethlisberger does will go to Smith-Schuster largely. So that cancels itself out a little bit. Marvin Jones Jr. at Chicago. I don't know. Look, the edge in wide receivers I actually give to the Lightning Rods. Surprisingly, I'm going to give the quarterback edge to Roethlisberger. Marlon Mack playing against Saquon Barkley. Mack has been pretty good lately. The last 2 games he's played, he's got 31 points and 28. This time playing against a tougher Jacksonville defense, at least on paper, and certainly not in fantasy. But Saquon just is he's been a monster all season long. Obviously, give the edge to Saquon. Tevin Coleman, he's finally playing him. Going against Isaiah Crowell, I'm going to give the edge to Coleman. What has Crowell done? Has Crowell done it? No, Crowell sucked lately. O.J. Howard versus Njoku. Howard got those 2 touchdowns last week, but I don't think he's going to get them again. Maybe. Washington sucks. Njoku. I don't know. And then Brandon Cooks against Tyler Lockett. So those 2 wide receivers are playing against each other. Lightning Rods has to replace his kicker. Tillett has the Jets kicker. The Los Angeles Rams defense versus Seattle. Did they just play them? Going against an empty defense right now. So 2 players have to be replaced. The kicker for the Lightning Rods and the defense for Team Auto Draft. I don't know. The Lightning Rods actually should win this one.
He could, but you know what? We're going to have to go with Tillett.
All right. We'll see. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. That could go either way, I guess. All right, and then it leaves us the last game of the week. Nicky Baby versus Dave's Secret Crush. Eugene's favored 142.33 to 116.58. Greatest quarterback of all time, Pat Mahomes versus Arizona going against Aaron Rodgers versus Miami. Miami looked terrible last week, but there wasn't a lot going on in that game. But Mahomes playing against Arizona, they're not too good either. Michael Thomas at Cincinnati, that's a good matchup for him. Cooper Kupp versus Seattle. Cooper Kupp now back, he should be good too. Tyrell Williams at Oakland, ooh, good matchup there. Keenan Allen at Oakland, so even better for Nicky Baby. Actually, I think Nicky Baby's a wide receiver could burn his other teammate there. McCaffrey and Elliott. So Nicky Baby's former running back at Philadelphia and McCaffrey going at Pittsburgh. Going against Gurley and T. Cannon. Trenton Cannon.
All right.
Okay. Because Latavius Murray has a bye. Ooh, and so does Javarius Allen. Oof. Wouldn't Nicky Baby like to have Ezekiel Elliott this game? Ben Watson at Cincinnati against Kittle versus the Giants. I think Kittle will have a good game. I don't necessarily think Watson will have that great a game. He might. I don't know. Aaron Jones versus Miami against Jared Cook versus the Chargers. Nick doesn't even have a kicker this week right now. Jacksonville defense going against the Carolina defense tomorrow night. Nick is. If Nick had a running back, I actually might have picked him in this game. But here's the thing, Eugene. This is where that trade actually helps him. I mean, the fact that Elliott is playing and Nick is going with getting shot out of a cannon this week. I mean, Eugene's going to win this game. Yeah, I mean, Eugene's going to win.
I think he was planning for this week during that. That's why he did that trade.
Do you think he's that? He's not that diabolical. He's not thinking 10 weeks. Eugene Gazenput is not thinking 10 weeks ahead or 7 weeks ahead. He just lucked into that. Because really, all of the other matchups, I mean, Nick has the edge with Keenan Allen, so the guy that he traded for. I mean, look, Michael Thomas does, I think, have an edge versus Cooper Kupp, but I think Cooper Kupp will hold his own. I think there's, I mean, obviously Gurley is great. But yeah, and Jared Cook has not been good lately. I mean, he could have one of those breakout games. I don't know, but yeah, I mean, this is going to be the situation where that Elliott trade really hurts Nick. Right?
Yeah, this week. Yeah, you're right. We would like to have Elliott back this week, of course.
I mean, and that would, look, if that actually comes to pass, I mean, Nick would go to 4-6. So, I mean, brings him back into the mud with everybody else. So, I mean, we could really start to, depending on how things go, we could really start to see some separation at the top. Oddwin is in a class all by himself down at the bottom. But if the Lightning Rods can pull off an upset, and then all of those mid-range teams, I mean, we could really have a battle royale to the finish of these last 3 weeks if things play out correctly. And look, it might. I mean, a lot of that is relying on whether or not the St. Louis Blues can win this game. I mean, it's a tough uphill climb for them, but I mean, it's possible. I mean, when we looked at that lineup, and what he could potentially do there. But Black Ice Dynasty can also separate himself. He could really start to be in that top 4 to 5 teams, So, I don't know. This will be a very interesting, determinative week about, the course of the rest of the regular season. Well, your upset of the week?
The biggest upset of the week would be Oddwin over Nick and Jamie.
That's not going to happen. Your actual pick of what... I mean, yes, if Oddwin were to beat Nick and Jamie... That would be the biggest upset of all time. That's not going to happen. I mean, that is my lock of the week. By far, signed, sealed, delivered, he's yours. I don't know. Who do you go with the upset of the week?
All right, upset of the week. Actually, might be Fitzmagic over your team.
Interesting. I think my pick for upset of the week is going to be the Blues against going over Black Ice Dynasty. I think that could happen if he does things right.
That could happen.
I think Minor has some weaknesses. I think that the projections are a lot higher than they should be. I think that Gordon has not a good game like he did last week. And I think that if the Blues can actually play things right, I mean, look, he's got Kenyon Drake and Doug Martin in there. Now, granted, it's Dion Lewis and David Johnson, but I think that they're serviceable. What's his name? He gets Ebron back. Des Bryant, I guess if he actually plays, usually those players have like a good first game. I think the Blues is going to pull off an upset here. I mean, Phillip Rivers is playing against Oakland. Yeah, my upset of the week is the Blues.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. All right, well, that does it. We're clocking in at 58 minutes. Look at that. Well, you should be happy.
Wow.
I hope we satisfied your commute there.
Yeah, most people can get the whole podcast in during your commute.
Yeah, I know, exactly. Or at least during a dump. Depending on what you eat.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Well, I guess that's it for now. Yeah. Carry on, everyone. Good luck this week.
Yes, good luck, everyone.
All right. See you next week. Bye.
Peace out.